Hey guys, this is Trig. Let's talk a little bit about loadout ideology and just anything that I use to kind of build a class for Warzone. So first things first, I'm just going to talk about your solo build. Okay, your solo build is a build in which usually you would use if you are playing solos or you are in a 1v3 situation. This build is designed to cover you up and conceal you as much as possible. And so perks are more important in your solo build than specific weapon sets. Looking at like my solo build here with the M4, I'm going to want to go with something that, conceals me, cold-blooded ghost. And I use amped personally. You could go tracker. I personally like the quick swap, especially if you have like a rocket launcher on or anything like that. And amped has a rocket launcher speed. But, looking at some of these things, shrapnel, there's no use for it in Warzone because there's the ability to always get a second piece of equipment. That's what shrapnel does. So you can see it says no specialist effect on in Warzone game mode. Anything that says this, do not use it, no matter what. Okay, but back to solo talk here. Your solo gun. You want your solo gun to be a jack of all trades kind of weapon. That's why I use the M4 with mine. Other guns I would suggest, maybe even an MP7 or the GRAU. Maybe even the M13. These are guns that all shoot straight at a very, very high distance. Yet once you get into a building, you're not going to be tied up. You're not going to literally be like slow and sluggish like a PKM or a M91. You're going to be doing all right in the building as well. Personally, with a solo build, you would maybe want to consider, if we're looking at attachments, maybe, and I have a 60 round mag on this clip, but maybe even going down to a 50 round mag. Reason being is because look at the mobility difference. Look at the mobility difference between the, I'm on a 50 right now. As soon as I switch down to a 60, you can kind of see the mobility right here go way down. You want a gun, again, that will be able to shoot an extreme distance. It will be able to flinch a sniper. It will be able to, fry inside a building and protect you at close ranges. Like a gun like an MP5, I'm not going to pick for my solo build because it just does not have the long range capability. I would much rather have something like an MP7 or a long shooting accurate gun like a GRAU, an M13, or an M4. Okay, let's talk about the secondary weapon really quick. Honestly, I don't think that there's any other choice besides the RPG. All of these 3 rocket launchers just take too long to reload in Warzone. You want something that is mobile and quick. The knife, I've seen some people use it. You can move extremely fast with a combat knife. You might be able to get a contract done really quickly. However, you won't ever catch me using that. And then the handgun, maybe when the akimbo snake shots were still a thing. Maybe when the Renettis were, not nerfed into the ground as well. But again, I honestly think that the RPG in this is the only equalizer for your solo build. Personally, my solo builds always have a heartbeat sensor, and I'm not very good with claymores. I know I sound like a scrub saying, or not with claymores, C4s. So I sound like a scrub saying that. But I've always used claymores just to cover my ass, cover a doorway especially. But that's all, that's all choice. So you can use, proximity mines. You could use C4 if you have a Jeep that comes up and you can get a good C4 playoff on that. You've just killed 3 people and possibly just, took all the money and have enough for another full res. So those are some of my thought process when I'm building my solo class. I want a gun that is accurate at extreme distances, a gun that does damage up close and is not going to handicap you. I know this is an extreme case, but I would never run a AX50 on my solo class because it just doesn't have any building capability whatsoever. Now, sure, I could sit on top of a building, but if I catch a guy in a stairwell by accident, GG. You know what I mean? So these are the thoughts that you got to think about when you're building a solo class. Okay. So let's say we're not in a solo setting. Let's say we have a full team. We're in a power position. It could be early game, right? It could be mid game. But let's say that we have just started out the game. We're dropping our first loadout. I personally like to run overkill on my first loadout. The reason being is it gives me options. I can go sniper MP7. I could go M13 sniper. I could go with a medium range M13 with an MP5 if we're like in downtown or in hospital and I need something that's going to fry somebody up close. So again, you'll see my 3 or 4 builds here all kind of playing different roles, right? And each one I personally label Warzone, I label the gun, and I label, this says HDR, should say MP5, right? It should say M13 as well, looking at it. But the ideology behind the build is there. It's covering 2 different things at one time. Now, however, if you're an RPG guy, maybe you're running Ghost right off the get-go. Maybe your teammates you don't have a, there is no perk 2 that I would really say is useful other than Ghost or Restock. Some try and argue hardline. 25% off is really not like a big deal in Warzone. I don't know. You think of 25% off of like $5,000 or $4,000, just say $4,000 is a nice neat number. It's only $1,000 off. I mean, yeah, your UAVs maybe cost $3,000, but a lot of times you have that extra cash sitting around anyways. I personally have used Restock before, but again, Ghost is that second kind of that perk 2 slot that is ideal. So when you build your guns up close or for different circumstances here, depending on what you want, these are some things that I look for in my guns. Every single gun except for my MP5 has monolithic suppressor. Why do I do that? Because of the damage range. Warzone's a huge fucking map. Like, you need extended range. I'm not necessarily worried about losing ADS speed or aim walk steadiness because I'm getting the damage range. I'm thinking of the trade-off that I'm getting, and damage range is extremely valuable, right? If I look at light rate suppressor, the damage range is a fall off. And a range essentially in Call of Duty is when does it take, instead of 4 bullets to kill, at what range does it take 4 bullets to kill a guy? At that same range, if you were to lose damage range, it might take 5 bullets to kill a guy. So when we're looking at guns like the submachine guns, you'll see that their range is much lower than ARs, right? And so things to think about. Barrels, again, I'm always building with a barrel that gives me extra damage range, extra bullet velocity, recoil control. I'm not necessarily so worried about ADS speed, okay? Now, depending on what gun you're running, you could honestly run looking at it, a commando. I personally always use the commando foregrip. I've learned from the pros that the recoil stabilization and the aiming stability, it just keeps your gun from moving side to side. And in Call of Duty, it is much easier to control vertical recoil than it is side to side recoil. So you don't want your gun jumping left and right. You want your gun jumping up and down, because it's very easy to just bring your crosshair down when you have it right on them, right? So I almost always build every gun with commando foregrip. You'll find my MP5 has it. You'll find, every gun. My M4 has it. So I personally almost always go commando foregrip. Now, depending on what you're using it for, you may, if you're going to be hip firing this MP5, maybe go down to the MUZZLE foregrip, right? You got to just kind of, what am I going to use this gun for? You got to sit there and think about it for a little while. Personally, I don't know. I don't hip fire very often, and if I do, I'm right in their face. So, I don't see any use for the MUZZLE foregrip. Anyways, back to Warzone takes more bullets to kill people. The full shields, dude, if you run into a 2-stack, 30 rounds sometimes just doesn't get it done. You burn ammo so quick, and I'll never forget the time where I sat there and I watched one of my buddies, Speedo, shoot a guy with 20 bullets, and that it took him 20 bullets and he still didn't even get it down. And it wasn't because he was missing. It felt like there was a little bit of a latency issue with Warzone as well. And so you're gonna want an extended magazine. Again, you have to make the choice. Do I want a little bit of that mobility back on a 50-round mag, or am I willing to sacrifice that mobility for 60? Okay, so these are just some of the things that I think about. Okay, is the iron sights on my gun when I'm thinking about the optic? Is the iron sights on my gun trash? or are they pretty decent like the GRAU? Honestly, the GRAU's iron sights, you see almost everybody in the game not even run an optic on it. If they do, it's a VLK 3 times because they want the extra zoom on it. But they might not even run an optic on it because it's clean. So that all depends. You'll never ever see me run a MP7 with an optic because, again, it's one of the cleanest iron sights in the game. You can snipe with them. So depending on what gun you're using, you know, you might trade off a little bit of, I don't know, stability. Because if I didn't have this optic on, I might be able to run a tack laser instead, which would give me huge ADS speed, stability, and steadiness. But again, things that you got to think about. What am I willing to trade off and on for? Again, what ranges am I going to be using this gun? Do I need this gun to be overly stable, or do I need this gun to fry somebody up close? You'll notice that my MP5 is not built really for control, though it does give me a lot of control because it's the MP5. It's a submachine gun. You'll notice that control is going to be higher on a sub than an AR. So just some more things to think about when you're building your kit. What am I doing with it, and what kind of situations am I engaging in, and what kind of situations am I getting out of? Last thing to look at here really quickly before we kind of wrap up kind of some loadout ideology and thought process. Again, this is not something that I can build your guns for you. Now, however, there are certain attachments and whatnot that you'll see a lot of people commonly use, like the monolithic suppressor. Almost everybody uses it because it extends the damage range. But again, you know, this is all opinion. This is all what I do, okay? And you might take it with a grain of salt. I'm not a professional, however, I do have a pretty good KD. So, you know, it is, you know, whatever you want to make of it. Some things that I look for in Warzone, anything that extends damage range. Okay, so when I'm building a new gun, have no idea what I'm building, if it extends damage range in Warzone, it's probably a pretty good perk. I'm willing to sacrifice ADS speed sometimes and aim walking steadiness. However, I do not want to be lugging around a gun that is literally 150 pounds in Warzone. If I'm not able to counteract that slow ADS speed elsewhere, which we do, again, this gun, I don't need to be fast because why? Because I have my MP5 on it, right? So depending on what the gun's designed for, right, these are certain things that you might be picking. So monolithic here, again, anything extending damage range, you'll notice that the barrel does the same thing on the M13. But if I'm to build a completely new gun, a gun that I've never ever built before, and let's just go to a random, I don't use my GRAU class very often, believe it or not. And let's just pick something different. Let's pick I don't know, a SCAR. Again, a gun I don't use very often, so I don't have many attachments for. But when I'm building this, things that I'm looking for, I would never pick the flash card because it decreases bullet velocity. I don't care if it conceals my muzzle flash. It reduces the speed at which the bullet comes out of your gun, and instead makes you have to lead a target more unless they're like standing and shooting right at you. Not useful to me in Warzone. Again, at an extreme distance, I don't want to be leading a guy with an AR 3 steps. That's not what I'm using my AR for. Maybe a sniper rifle at an extreme distance, but not with an AR, right? So some things that we're looking at, maybe the barrel. Again, this increases damage range, increases bullet velocity, increases recoil control. I'm willing to give up movement speed and ADS for that. I'm going to put that on my SCAR. Okay, now being that I just made my SCAR slower, I might consider doing a tack laser. And if we look back at the tack laser here on another gun here, just to kind of see what it does for other guns, if I might consider a tack laser because it raises the ADS speed and I get stability and steadiness out of it. Again, might be a nice combination on the SCAR, right? Because I just slowed my SCAR down, and so I need it to be able to, you know, not be something that is extremely slow. And so maybe I'm putting my tack laser on a SCAR. Underbarrel, all this is useless. Anything 40 millimeter, I wouldn't even consider it, honestly. Commando foregrip gives me that stable. So some other things that I might be picking on the SCAR, and I'm thinking about the weaknesses of this gun. This gun has a 20-round clip, right? And so maybe a 30 round clip might be something. I don't care how much it slows my gun down. 20 bullets in Warzone is not going to do it, Chief, right? And so I'm going to be needing to be picking up an extended magazine, and that extended magazine is going to slow my gun down a little bit. Now, I might have to test it in game, but maybe it's not slow. Maybe it's just an average, pull up and use gun. But if it is slow, maybe I'm considering throwing sightled on it, because again, that's going to raise the speed of the gun. I want a nice balance between accuracy and range and mobility, right? I don't, for an all-around gun, for my main gun, I do not want something that is a one-trick pony. I don't want a sniper as my only gun. Like, I'm gonna need something else besides a sniper. It might have the best range of the game, however the mobility might be just not there, and I'm gonna need something different. Okay. Looking at the stocks here, depending on what you're using it for. Are you shooting in the hills across the map? Are you gonna be clearing buildings with it, right? Movement speed, ADS speed. I mean, depending on how you want this thing to play, you could build this SCAR like an MP5. You could honestly build the SCAR like an MP5. There it is. It's starting to look like one. It's going to be a lot quicker with the collapsible stock, and you're going to actually see your movement speed go up, which was decreased because of the forged tack barrel earlier. So maybe this no stock option speeds up my gun. Again, all pros and cons. You just got to figure out, what am I doing with this gun? Again, what is its ideology? And then, play to its strengths, avoid its weaknesses. I'm not going to go clear a building with a PKM. It's just not going to happen. This is not the gun that I'm going to pick to clear a building. Where the heck is it? I can't even find it. Right there. Like, if we're looking at the statistics of this gun, the mobility is so slow. Like, and it takes so damn long for me to ADS this gun. It's just not going to happen. However, if I'm building this thing for a shootout where I'm in cover and whatnot, maybe I put a, extended barrel on this thing. Maybe where's the monolithic suppressor, damage range, put that on it, right? Underbarrel, I almost always go commando foregrip. Ammunition, got 100 rounds in it. Do I need 200? Fuck no, right? Like, I'm going to speed this thing up maybe with a tack laser instead. Get some ADS speed out of it, get some more stability out of this gun. I don't need another 150 bullets like in this gun. There's no way, right? Maybe depending on what I'm trying to use it for, I would never ever use a PKM for a building clear. So maybe I'm trying to get, maybe this is a slower gun. Maybe I'm trying to get some stability out of it. I want to lay down some fire for an extended period of time. Maybe it's an open field, end of game. Like, this is why I would be using PKM right here. And maybe I'm feeling that my gun is still a little slow. Maybe I put something to burst the speed of it on there. Oh, but I've used 5. Maybe my gun's feeling slow, so I take off the stock and I put on the rear grip. Again, these are things that you've got to make a decision about. But some of the things that I look for overall, I look for my guns to be fast. If you can get your gun up faster than another person, it doesn't matter. Like, if you have an extra half a second to shoot, usually you're going to kill them first. If you're a potato, then maybe you need, some more stability stuff to keep your gun from going everywhere. However, I feel like my accuracy is pretty good. I can hit shots when this thing's bouncing around. I would rather get my gun up faster. That allows me to compete more, right? So these are things that you got to think about. Am I a good shot? Am I an average shot as well? Like, you'll notice the AX50. I have it entirely built for speed. These 3 are almost like fundamental on the AX50, right? Monolithic is always there. Again, looking at the barrel damage range, bullet velocity, there's a no-brainer on the barrel, right? It's an absolute no-brainer. This bullet velocity one is an extreme. Like, you do not want your bullets to be slow, because then you have to lead more, and there's more, I guess, error in your bullet, and it's just not something you want. Okay, so but maybe I'm a good shot with a sniper rifle, or maybe I'm like doing drag scopes and flick sniping people, and I'm able to very quickly put it on their head or whatnot. Maybe I'm building my thing for ADS speed. Maybe I want to get my sniper up before they get their sniper up, and I'm able to shoot first. If you can shoot first and you can hit the shot, you're going to win the fight. And so these are, again, things that you're thinking about that will make a huge difference. So hopefully these little tips helped. I'm sorry this video ran a little bit longer than normal, but you know, if this did help in any way, you know, the video served its purpose, man. Feel free to like and subscribe if you would like, but I am going to end this one for now. Thanks for hanging out with me.